Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 31. Humiliation. Pulling out a pair of sunglasses identical to the broken one in her hands, Lila held it up in front of Ethan with a mischievous grin. "Hey Effie, check this out. This one has a serial number engraved on the screw, but hers doesn't." "Weird. Huh." Ethan instantly understood her meaning. This wasn't just a casual observation. This was a verbal slap in the face, delivered with precision. Every time Ivy tried to speak, Lila cut her off with playful jabs, each sharper than the last. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. How about I just give you these instead?" Lila offered the sunglasses in her hand, her tone sweet and apologetic as she held them out. Ivy hesitated, momentarily caught off guard, and instinctively reached for the glasses. But just as Ivy's fingers brushed the frame, Lila yanked them back and declared, "Wait, no, these were a gift from Effie. How about we compensate you instead?" With that, she reached into Ethan's pocket. Ethan assumed she was grabbing his phone to transfer the money and was about to tell her it was in the other pocket. But before he could, Lila pulled out a thick wad of cash. His jaw dropped. Not only was it a bundle of neatly folded $100 bills, but there were smaller denominations and even a single dime tucked under the yellow leather strap binding the stack together. Ethan blinked, stunned. When did he start carrying that kind of money? Lila turned back to Ivy, holding up the cash with a grin. "Ma'am, I have no idea what your knockoff glasses are worth, but let's compensate you at the price of the real deal. Here's $1,357.20. The original store don't give discounts, so you'll need every bit of it." Before Ivy could respond, Lila tossed the bundle with unerring accuracy. It smacked Ivy square in the face before falling to the ground. The crowd fell silent. The buzzing murmurs of onlookers were replaced by a stunned hush. Jaws dropped, and eyes widened as everyone stared at Ivy, her face bright red with embarrassment, and now sporting a crisp red mark from the impact. If Lila's earlier words were a slap to Ivy's pride, this was a full-on knockout. Lila tilted her head, pretending to notice something amiss. "Oh, ma'am, what happened to your nose?" The spectators, who had been holding their breath, turned their gazes to Ivy's face. About to explode with rage, Ivy froze at the question. Her hand shot up to her nose as she reflexively touched it. Then, without another word, she spun on her heel and bolted. But not before everyone saw it. Her nose was crooked. No blood, just bent at an odd angle. The realization hit the crowd all at once. Her nose was probably fake. "Ma'am, wait," Lila called after her, feigning concern. "You forgot your money. Those fake sunglasses aren't expensive, but fixing your nose? That's gotta cost quite a lot." The crowd erupted in laughter, though a few onlookers shook their heads at the sheer audacity. Ivy stumbled as she fled, her unsteady steps betraying her humiliation. Ethan could only gape at the scene. Was this Lila's true nature? A devil in disguise? "Ethan, hurry and help me. I lost a dime." Lila crouched down, waving the money at Ethan as she sifted through the scattered bills. Ethan stepped forward, about to tell her to forget it, when a low, magnetic voice cut through the noise. "Looking for this?" Ethan turned, his body stiffening as his eyes landed on the speaker. "No way, sir." "Thank you, miss." Lila stood, taking the dime from the woman's slender fingers with a bright smile. The woman arched a brow, the corner of her mouth curving upward. "I thought you were going to call me ma'am too." Around them, the crowd gasped in unison. She smiled. "No way. Am I dreaming? Ow! Why'd you pinch me?" As the murmurs grew louder, the woman turned and cast a single sweeping glance at the crowd. The noise ceased instantly, and the onlookers scattered like startled birds. Some in the crowd shielded their faces with whatever they could find, hoping she wouldn't notice them. Lila saw the reactions and turned to the woman beside her with a bright smile. "Miss Hawthorne, how could someone as stunning as you ever be called ma'am?" Celeste Hawthorne, with her usual icy demeanor, ignored the comment. Instead, she shifted the subject. "So, you're the new transfer, Lila Silverwood." Judging by that little stunt earlier, you've clearly had some training. Training? Oh no. That was just a lucky throw. Lila stammered, her nerves showing as she faced Celeste. After all, the rumors about this so-called Ice Queen were no joke. Celeste's lips curved into a faint smirk as she saw through Lila's unease. You've skipped all the combat classes this month. Don't miss the next one. Then her gaze flicked to Ethan. And you, Ethan, eat more vitamins or something. Wouldn't want all this effort to go to waste. She shot a meaningful glance at Lila, her tone dripping with insinuation, before walking away. Ethan, who had been staring at the sky, trying to remain uninvolved, was left utterly speechless. What does she mean by waste? Lila asked curiously, tilting her head at Ethan. Nothing. Don't worry about it. Ethan quickly waved it off, desperate to change the subject. Let's grab some food. I'm starving. Still puzzled, Lila followed Ethan as they made their way to the campus dining hall, her face full of questions. After finishing their meal, Ethan headed off to class, while Lila had plans to meet her friends for a study session. When Ethan stepped into the classroom, he was immediately greeted by a chorus of howls and laughter. "Ethan, you little shit!" boomed a towering figure who threw an arm around his shoulders. It was Rowan Kane, his dorm mate and the so-called leader of their group. Back when they'd first arrived on campus, Rowan had looked out for him. "What happened?" Ethan asked, genuinely confused. "Don't play dumb," Rowan said, laughing. "Everyone knows by now. Ex-girlfriend? Queen of the finance department. Current girl? Top candidate for campus beauty queen." A skinny, bespectacled guy joined in, smirking. "Seriously, Ethan? 2 god-tier girls? How'd you pull that off?" This was Greg, another dorm mate. Despite his quiet, studious demeanor, he was infamous for his dry sense of humor. Ah, Ethan thought. So word really had spread. It hadn't taken long for today's drama to circulate across campus. "Hey third bro, come on. Share your secrets with us?" chimed in JJ, the youngest in their dorm, who had taken to calling Ethan third bro, based on his dorm rank. "Yeah. Spill it, Ethan." The others joined in, voices overlapping as they closed in. Ethan, a software engineering major, looked around the room. It was a classic case of wolves circling in a land of scraps. In their department, eligible women were few and far between, and most weren't exactly what you'd call desirable. Before Ethan could even attempt an answer, a voice thundered from the front of the room. "Quiet down. This is a university, not a marketplace." The balding professor at the podium glared at them, his white shirt straining against a considerable belly. "If you're not seated in the next 60 seconds, you'll all be marked absent." The classroom fell into chaos as everyone scrambled to their seats. Ethan glanced at the professor, trying to place the man's face. After all these years, he couldn't quite remember who this was, but like everyone else, he quickly found a seat before the man's patience ran out. The afternoon dragged on painfully. Bored out of his mind, Ethan found himself missing the freedom of his previous life. Eventually, exhaustion took over. He dozed off, sleeping through both back-to-back classes in the same room. Thankfully, both classes were in the same room, sparing him the indignity of being left behind in his deep sleep. That evening, Ethan and Lila went out for a lavish dinner. Full and satisfied, they returned home in the sleek Predator Beast X, their car gleaming under the streetlights as they pulled up to the villa. After a round of playful bickering, the two retreated to their respective rooms. The clock ticked closer to midnight, the highly anticipated server resumption time of Ethereal. Settling into his VR capsule, Ethan took a deep breath. Time to enter the game. Chapter 32. The Dreamwalker's Trial. Ethan logged into the game and immediately sent a message to Skyblade and the others, asking them to grind levels on their own for a while. He had a task to handle first. But there was no reply. Curious, Ethan opened the guild system to check on things, and the sheer number of players online surprised him. Over 400 members were currently active, with new ones logging in every minute. He scanned the guild roster. 700 members in total. How is that even possible? Ethan muttered, recalling that just yesterday, when he'd set up the guild system and told Skyblade they could start recruiting, there were only 40 minutes left before the servers shut down. Ethan hadn't paid much attention to the guild after that, as he was busy tracking down the bear druid. But in just 40 minutes, they'd recruited 700 people? That was insane. What Ethan didn't realize was that his reputation in Zone 1314 had skyrocketed. Even though his level was hidden in the guild, he was already a well-known figure in the starter zone. Coupled with the fact that the top 3 players on the leaderboard were in his guild, the draw was irresistible. Add in the 10% experience bonus from their level 2 guild, and recruitment had practically taken care of itself. Ah, brave one, you've arrived. As Ethan scanned through the guild stats, he reached the depths of the beast's den and found himself face to face with the towering bear druid. This time, the massive creature wasn't asleep, but greeted him with a deep, resonant voice. Honored bear druid, what can I do to help you? Ethan asked respectfully. Brave one, we must drink the dream potion together. The bear druid rumbled, gesturing to the glowing vial on the nearby table. Our souls will enter my dreamscape, where the real trial begins. From there, you're on your own. Let's get started, Ethan said, eager to begin. As soon as the potion touched his lips, darkness enveloped him. A faint light pierced the black void, slowly growing until the entire world was bathed in a dense, hazy mist. The eerie silence felt suffocating, and all system interfaces had disappeared. For a moment, it was as if he'd returned to the real world. Ethan started walking, but no matter how far he went, nothing changed. The oppressive mist bore down on him, his chest tightening as though a heavy stone rested on it. He tried shouting but found himself voiceless. The fog's oppressive weight gnawed at him, leaving only a faint, inexplicable pull to guide his steps. Trusting that unseen force, Ethan pressed forward, though the mist seemed endless. Without his usual panther form or any game mechanics to rely on, he could only trudge forward as a human. At first, he moved cautiously, expecting danger to leap out at any moment. Eventually, he broke into a run, hoping speed might carry him through. Time stretched on, but the scenery never changed. Exhausted and aimless, Ethan slowed to a crawl, his resolve fading. His hair grew long, trailing past his waist. His clothes withered, his shoes disintegrated, and yet he trudged on, barefoot. Eons seemed to pass. His youthful features gave way to an emaciated, hunched figure with skeletal hands. His body, once full of strength and vigor, became frail and stooped. He screamed for the system to let him log out, but the interface remained silent. He hoped the server would shut down and forcibly kick him out, but that too was a futile dream. Despair clawed at him. He had been reborn to rewrite his life, to right the wrongs of the past. He wanted to make up for what he owed Lila, the girl who had always been by his side. He wanted revenge against Zachary and Ivy, the ones who betrayed him so cruelly. But now, the fog stretched endlessly, hope flickering like a candle about to go out. Looking at his withered hands, Ethan touched his gaunt face and thought bitterly, even if I escape, what kind of world will I return to? Will everything I knew be gone? The weight of his despair broke him. He collapsed onto the cold ground, his body trembling as his consciousness slipped away. Ding. System alert. Congratulations on completing the Dreamwalker's trial. Completion rate, 536%. Surpassed the 1,000-year trial benchmark. Reward, soul power increased by 5.36x. Bonus reward, level +1. Ethan, who had lost consciousness moments before, was jolted awake by the familiar chime of the system notification. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back in the beast's den. The bear druid was standing tall, stretching as though a great burden had been lifted. Thank you, brave one. Your efforts have shattered the fog, allowing me to receive the guidance of the druid ancestors. Ethan blinked, still disoriented. To him, it felt like eons had passed. He'd aged, grown weak, and even perished in that endless haze. The bear druid continued speaking, but Ethan, overwhelmed by the memories of his ordeal, couldn't respond right away. Eventually, the bear druid's words began to make sense. It seemed that when they drank the dream potion, both their souls entered the dreamscape, amplified by a shared increase in soul power. However, Ethan hadn't appeared in the bear druid's dream. Instead, the druid had connected with a far-off realm, the ancestral homeland of the druids, a place known as the Dreamwood Grove. The bear druid explained that the forest of nature, where they now stood, was not the origin of the druids as they once believed. Thousands of years ago, during the cataclysm, the connection between the forest of nature and the Dreamwood Grove had been severed. This disruption left the druids in the forest of nature isolated, their power waning over time. The Dreamwood Grove had never stopped trying to re-establish contact. But they were facing their own crisis. Several demigods had disappeared, leaving only one ancient bear demigod, Ursar, to maintain the link. Ursar's weakened bloodline could barely reach the bear druid, who lacked the pure soul strength required to connect properly. Every previous attempt had failed. Ethan listened, his thoughts racing. When he glanced at the system clock, it was only 1 a.m. Barely 5 hours had passed. So this is what they mean by a dream that spans a millennium. He glanced at the trial's completion rate, 536%. A test meant to last 1,000 years had stretched into 5,360 years for him. But what exactly was soul power? Neither in this life nor the last could he recall encountering anything like it. While Ethan pondered the reward, the bear druid's explanation came to a close. Brave one, will you accept the role of emissary between the Dreamwood Grove and the Forest of Nature? Ding. System alert. Do you accept the bear druid's request? Upon acceptance, your skill teleport, Forest of Nature, will be replaced with teleport, Dreamwood Grove, granting you access to learn directly from the Grand Druids of the ancestral homeland. I accept, Ethan said without hesitation. After enduring 5,000 years of despair and hopeless wandering, he wasn't about to pass up the opportunity to grow stronger. For him, this was more than a mission. It was a renewal of his resolve to live, to reconnect with those he loved, and to gain the strength to change his fate. Ding. System alert. Task complete. Reward, skills, transform, bear form, and teleport, Dreamwood Grove. Additional reward, title Dreamwalker. Skill unlocked, transform, bear form. Description, assume the form of a mighty bear. Dodge chance, increased by agility boost. Defense, plus 300%. Stamina, plus 350%. Immune to polymorph effects. Unlocks exclusive bear form skills. Additional effect, removes all polymorph and movement restrictions on the caster upon transformation. Chapter 33, First Level 15 Player. Title, Dreamwalker. Attributes, all druid NPCs favorability, plus 300. Dark creatures targeted by your attacks, minus 8% attributes. Panther form, energy consumption reduced by 10%. Bear form, healing received increased by 10%. Owl form, attack range increased by 10%. Tree form, mana consumption reduced by 10%. Description, as the chosen envoy of the druids, their loyalty to you is unwavering. The stats were insane. Just the 8% reduction to dark creature stats alone was a game-changer. Given how most Carnage faction players were aligned with dark creatures, this perk was a direct counter. Add the other boosts and this title felt like a gift straight from the heavens, providing an all-around upgrade to the druid class. And that favorability bonus? It wasn't trivial. NPC relationships capped at 1,000 points, and this title handed over 300 points for free. Essentially, every druid NPC he encountered would start off respecting him. Still, Ethan wasn't grinding favorability just yet. He had bigger priorities, getting to the main city. It was the gateway to better quests, gear, and growth opportunities. Sure, favorability mattered, but it could be farmed later. Missing out on early game rewards locked behind level requirements? Now that was a mistake you couldn't undo. He opened the guild chat. The usual chatter filled the channel, voices buzzing with excitement. It had only been 5 hours in the real world since Ethan's soul journey, but for him it felt like he had lived over 5,000 years. Seeing their conversations now gave him a sense of surreal detachment, as if he were watching a distant echo of his past. Switching to his private messages, he noticed a note from Skyblade. Boss, handle your stuff first. We're taking some of the newbies to tackle a level 5 boss today. Ethan nodded to himself. Skyblade was as dependable as ever, just like in his last life. Even though they had reached level 10, their gear was still lacking. Taking on a level 5 boss would be challenging but manageable. He didn't bother offering advice. They'd appreciate their success more if they earned it through struggle. Finally, he opened his friends list and noticed Moonbeam still online. Ethan hesitated before initiating a video call. It rang for a long time with no answer. He figured Lila was busy fighting or handling quests, so he was about to end the call when it connected. The moment her screen appeared, Ethan froze. Lila's in-game name was glowing dark red, indicating a severe sin value. How many players did she have to kill to reach that level? What's going on? Why are you flagged? Ethan asked urgently. Lila was running, firing occasional shots over her shoulder. She spared him a glance before replying. Some psychos showed up at the training grounds near the starter zone. They started slaughtering everyone in sight. My team got wiped and they came after me too. I've taken out over 20 of them, but now I'm almost out of arrows with added damage effects. What should I do? Who are they? Ethan pressed, alarmed. They're from a guild called Unity Hall. At first, it was just one woman leading a team of 30, killing anyone they saw in the level 6 zones. But when players started fighting back, they brought reinforcements, around 100 members. Now they're massacring everyone. Unity Hall? A woman leading the charge? Could it be? Was the leader a priest named Nightfall? Ethan asked carefully. Lila froze mid-step, then glanced at him in shock. Yeah. How did you know? Do you know her? Ethan sighed, a wry smile creeping onto his face. Of all the people he could run into, it had to be her. Fate really had a twisted sense of humor. Lila, I'm sending you coordinates. Go there immediately and make sure no one follows you. Stay hidden and wait for me. He sent her the location of an old hideout he had once used while being hunted. It was well concealed and defensible with multiple escape routes. As long as she wasn't tailed, it was the perfect place to lay low. Got it, I'm heading there now. But, Ethan, are you already level 15? Can you come help right away? And who the hell is Nightfall? How do you even know someone that's psychotic? Ethan hesitated for a moment before responding. You know her too, Lila. And trust me, her psychopathy might have something to do with you. Wait, what? Lila stared at him in shock. Ethan chuckled bitterly before nodding. Her expression turned from confusion to realization in an instant. No way. Is it Ivy? His smile tightened as he nodded. He reminded her to stay cautious and to notify him once she reached the safe house. Then he ended the call, ignoring the stunned look on her face. Afterward, Ethan opened his private messaging interface and sent a quick note to Skyblade. Skyblade, I'm leaving the starter zone. You're in charge for now. Keep leveling up, though. Reach level 15 as soon as possible so we can regroup at the main city. Skyblade's response came swiftly. Don't worry, boss. We've got this. Everything's under control here. Ethan didn't doubt it. Their guild, the only level 2 guild in Zone 1314, had already reached its member cap of 1,000 players. In fact, demand for spots was so high that players were willing to pay for a membership slot. They were unquestionably the dominant force in the area. Ethan's message was more a formality than anything else. In his last life, Skyblade had almost single-handedly built their guild into a powerhouse. By the time they reached Harmony City, it had become one of the most recognized guilds, even taking down rivals like Unity Hall. Unfortunately, the guild's success had attracted unwanted attention. Back then, Zachary had used underhanded methods to inject large sums of money into the guild during a round of financing. By the time Ethan realized what was happening, it was too late. Zachary had seized control, rebranding the guild as Overlord. This time, Ethan wasn't going to let history repeat itself. No outside investments. He would build the guild with his own 2 hands. Determined, Ethan cast a teleportation spell, leaving the Forest of Nature and returning to Zone 1314. Ding. Global announcement. The world's first level 15 Survivor faction player has emerged. The new expansion, Conquest of the Main City, is now live. The announcement blazed across the skies of every starter zone. Players everywhere stopped what they were doing to stare up in awe. Ding. System notification. Congratulations on becoming the first level 15 player. You now have the privilege to post one global message, anonymously or under your real name. Would you like to use this privilege now? Ethan considered it. Messages like these didn't come cheap later in the game. Posting a national message would cost 1 million gold coins. Global ones were priced at 10 million. In the end, he decided against it. It was too early to draw attention. Better to keep a low profile for now. Ding. System notification. You have reached level 15. You are now eligible to leave the starter zone. Beyond lies a greater world. Good luck, brave warrior. The familiar prompt echoed in his ears as Ethan made his way to the teleportation platform. It was deserted, unsurprising, since only level 15 players could use it, and he was the only one currently. As the platform lit up, dazzling light engulfed him. Moments later, the glow faded, and Ethan found himself in Harmony City. He exhaled slowly, taking in the sprawling metropolis. He wasn't a stranger to this place. In his past life, he'd been here countless times, fleeing from pursuers and being forcibly teleported back to the starter zone when he dropped below level 15. The cycle had repeated more times than he cared to remember. But this time was different. Chapter 34. Arrival in Harmony. Harmony City, one of the 3 primary strongholds in the northern frontier region, sat atop the sprawling Gornith Hills. Despite being labeled as hills, the terrain was more like a series of elevated knolls. 10,000 years of renewal after the cataclysm had allowed the planet to recover, leaving only the starter zones as haunting remnants of the devastation. A green canopy blanketed the hills, its serene appearance concealing countless dangers beneath. Within Harmony, rows of grand buildings showcased a regal old-world charm. These rare architectural designs, steeped in history, were distinguished by their warm golden-red hues. At the city's northernmost edge stood a towering spire of pure white, surrounded by 9 colossal statues, each hundreds of feet tall. The statues depicted the ultimate champions of the Survivor faction, 9 legendary heroes hailed as the protectors of Azure. The spire and its statues were iconic features of every Survivor stronghold, symbols of resilience and hope. Harmony's strategic location on the Gornith Hills made it a bustling hub, equipped with countless teleportation points connecting to cities, towns, and villages across the continent. A simple payment and the utterance of a destination allowed for instant travel. Ding. System notice. Congratulations! You are the first player in the world to reach a main city. Reward: plus 200 reputation points for all main cities. Additionally, you have earned a top-tier land deed for this city. Ding. System notice. You are the first to reach Harmony City. Reward: plus 200 reputation points for Harmony City. Ding. System notice. As the world's first player and a level 2 guild leader to arrive at a main city, you are awarded a guild estate. Ding. System notice. The city lord has summoned you. Please proceed to the town hall to receive your reward personally. Ethan smirked at the notifications. He had rushed to reach the city for these rewards, but the city lord's personal summons was a pleasant surprise. The streets of Harmony were eerily quiet. Apart from the patrolling NPC guards, there wasn't a single soul in sight. Each guard was an elite soldier above level 120, a reminder of the city's fortified status. Standing in the heart of the city near the teleportation array, destined to become the busiest area in the future, Ethan made his way north toward the towering spire. This was where the town hall resided. At the spire's entrance, the guards didn't challenge him. His impressive 400 reputation points ensured they treated him with courtesy. One of the guards stepped forward and offered to escort him inside. Ethan followed the guard through the towering spire's grand entrance. Almost immediately, a figure in gleaming gold armor approached, a commanding presence. Ethan instinctively cast his basic appraisal skill. Only the NPC's level 210 appeared, while the rest of the details were obscured by question marks. His name, however, was visible: Roland Carter, captain of Harmony's 1st Guard Squadron, Elite. Honored traveler, Roland greeted with a polite nod. The city lord is expecting you. Please, follow me. Reputation points were a marvelous thing. In his previous life, Ethan had never managed to accumulate this much, even after years of effort. Naturally, he had never received such VIP treatment. The guard captain led Ethan into a vast hall. At its center, a holographic projection of Harmony's terrain glowed faintly. Standing before it was an elderly man in simple, unassuming clothes. Ethan glanced at the name hovering above the man's head, which revealed his identity. Gregor Darnell, City Lord of Harmony, Demigod. Seeing the name, Ethan struggled to suppress a laugh. Gregor's name sounded strangely mundane for someone of his stature. But the title Demigod left him speechless. He hadn't expected the leader of a level 5 city to possess such immense power. Curious, Ethan cast another appraisal skill. Failed. Gregor turned to face him, a knowing smile on his lips. Young man, though age has taken its toll on me, the divine aura of a demigod still protects me. Perhaps you should reconsider using such basic tricks on someone like me. Ethan scratched his head awkwardly. Apologies, City Lord. I was merely curious as to why someone of your caliber would lead a humble city like this. Gregor chuckled heartily. Ah, youth, you're bold enough to ask an old man about his regrets. Are you not afraid I might revoke your reward? For a fleeting moment, cold light flashed in Gregor's weary eyes. Behind Ethan, Roland instinctively placed a hand on the hilt of his blade. Ethan thought to himself, when did NPCs start acting this lifelike? His memories of them were nothing but mechanical responses and scripted dialogue. Despite his thoughts, Ethan bowed slightly and said, "Lord Gregor, your rebuke is deserved. My ignorance led to offense." As he spoke, he observed the city lord's reaction carefully. While Gregor's tone carried the weight of authority, Ethan wasn't too concerned. The system's reward didn't technically require the city lord's involvement, which meant the summons likely had more to do with triggering a hidden event. Lowering his posture might yield an unexpected opportunity. Gregor let out a hearty laugh. A sharp tongue and a flexible will, traits that promise great achievements. If only I had such patience in my youth, perhaps I wouldn't have been ousted from Central Dominion. Ethan caught a glimpse of Captain Roland easing his grip on the hilt of his blade. Straightening his posture, Ethan grinned and replied, "You flatter me, Lord Gregor. Truthfully, I'm just afraid of dying." Gregor chuckled again, the corners of his eyes crinkling with amusement. "Come, lad. Pick a plot of land as your reward," he said, gesturing toward the holographic map in the center of the hall. Ethan stepped forward eagerly. He had meticulously studied the city's prime locations in his past life and already knew where to stake his claim. The teleportation hub and the surrounding properties were destined to become the city's busiest and most valuable areas. 3 plots encircled the hub in a triangular formation, and Ethan had his eye on one of them. Pointing to the plot closest to the hub, Ethan declared, "I'll take this one." Gregor's eyes gleamed with a sharpness that belied his age. "A fine choice, young man. This is the most coveted golden zone in all of Harmony, valued at 1,200 gold. You've got an eye for opportunity." Though the official price of land wasn't exorbitant, the city's main source of income came from future taxes, 1% of daily revenue paid to the city administration. Feigning confidence, Ethan replied, "Is the Lord unwilling to part with it?" Internally, however, he was uncertain. The system may have promised him a land deed, but the specifics of which plot remained at Gregor's discretion. After all, in his previous life, the first player to reach Harmony had settled for a plot near the southern gate rather than in the prime location. Instead of answering, Gregor pointed to 2 adjacent plots near the teleportation hub. "What do you think of these 2 instead?" Ethan frowned slightly, confused. "Are you asking me to choose between these 2? The alternate plots, while smaller than the one Ethan had chosen, were still prime real estate. In his original plan, Ethan intended to purchase these plots after accumulating enough gold, as they were priced at 750 gold each. Gregor leaned back slightly, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "If you can accomplish a task for me, I'll give you both plots as well. Here it comes, a hidden event." Ethan's excitement surged. 2 prime plots worth 750 gold each were no small reward. At current market rates, their combined value was close to $3 million in USD, and their future value would skyrocket at least 50-fold. "What task would you have me undertake, Lord Gregor?" Ethan asked, his eyes alight with interest. Gregor's smile widened. "Do you know of the 2 other main cities north of Harmony? I want you to travel there, purchase the golden properties in those cities, and transfer the ownership to me." Ethan's mind raced as he processed the implications. This old fox wasn't just ambitious. He was looking to control the economic lifelines of the entire region. He recalled a similar mission from his past life. A player had once taken on a similar land transfer task, only to suffer severe consequences. Their reputation points in the targeted cities had plummeted by 300, leaving them a pariah. While they avoided imprisonment or execution, they couldn't walk the streets without harassment. NPCs refused to sell goods or provide quests, and shop prices were inflated by 30%. It was a miserable existence.
Chapter 35. Guild war.
That guy in his previous life eventually had no choice but to scrape by in a different region. Now that Ethan had earned the full 400 reputation points in Harmony City, he could easily be the first to reach the other 2 major cities. There was even a bonus of additional reputation points for being the first to arrive. However, a single misstep could result in a huge setback, possibly even dropping his standing to 0. The value of the 2 golden properties up for grabs was undeniable. But with his current resources, Ethan believed he could secure enough funds soon enough. All he had to do was act before the other players started leaving the starter zone. Glancing at the leaderboard, Ethan noted that the top-ranked players in the Northern Frontier region were only at level 11. Gaining those last 4 levels wasn't easy. The experience required was exponentially higher than for previous levels. Given his situation, Ethan decided against taking on the task. Setting aside the potential loss of reputation points, he simply didn't have the funds to purchase golden properties in 2 major cities. Just as Ethan was about to decline, the city lord spoke again. "Young man, don't worry about the funding. I'll personally cover all costs. Additionally, as a token of gratitude, I'll give you something I acquired during my younger days." Gregor paused for a moment, then added with a sly smile, "In return, I'll allow you to use the property deeds, but I want 50% of all pure profits from your operations. Does that sound fair?" Ethan accepted the item Gregor handed him. It was thin and delicate, practically weightless. Looking closer, he realized it was a mask. Disguise mask. Effect. Allows the wearer to mimic the appearance of any player. Durability. 12 out of 100 uses. Usage. Press onto the face. Special item. Does not occupy any equipment slot. Upon seeing the item's description, Ethan's mind immediately began crafting a plan. Dropping his initial intent to refuse, he raised an eyebrow and smirked. 5%. Gregor froze, his expression incredulous. After a moment of stunned silence, he finally responded, 45%. I'm fronting all the money, and all you have to do is manage the shops. Ethan leaned forward, his grin widening. Once you secure the golden property deeds for Springhaven and Blackridge, I want exclusive use of the Harmony City deeds around the teleportation hub. I'll accept giving you 10% of the net profits from the shops in the other 2 cities, but you'll cover 50% of any future upgrade costs. Gregor stared at Ethan as though he'd grown another head. Do you realize how ridiculous you sound? In 10 days, others might arrive at the main stronghold. By then, you'll be lucky to keep even a fraction of this deal. This is your chance. Don't blow it. Ethan shrugged. Then I won't take the task. No big deal. The sheer audacity of Ethan's counteroffer left Gregor speechless. Players rarely dared to haggle with an NPC of his caliber, and certainly not with this level of confidence. After a long pause, Gregor's face turned red. I'll cover 10% of future upgrade costs and take 20% of the profits. 10% profits for Springhaven and Blackridge, Ethan countered, his tone calm but firm. 15%. Ethan leaned back, crossing his arms. You know what? I've changed my mind. 5%. Gregor's hands clenched into fists as his breathing turned heavy. After several tense moments, he finally exhaled sharply. Fine, 10% it is. Before Gregor could finish, Ethan waved his hand, summoning the system's contract interface. The transparent screen floated between them as Ethan gestured toward it. Here's a recording of our conversation. Let's seal the deal, Lord Darnell. Gregor reluctantly reviewed the recording, his jaw tightening as he played back Ethan's words. Once you secure the golden property deeds for Springhaven and Blackridge. Gregor shut the recording off before it could aggravate him further. Grabbing the system's quill, he sighed heavily and signed his name. Ethan chuckled as he added his own signature, a subtle spark gleaming in his eyes. Ding. Contract activated. Gregor Darnell, City Lord of Harmony Stronghold, has commissioned Ethan to purchase golden property deeds in Springhaven and Blackridge. Upon successful completion, Ethan will be rewarded with the 2nd and 3rd golden property deeds near Harmony Stronghold's teleportation hub. Additionally, Ethan is granted free access to properties in Springhaven and Blackridge, and Gregor Darnell will receive 5% of their pure profits. City Lord Gregor will also cover 10% of all future shop upgrade costs under Ethan's name. Any violation of this contract will result in punishment by the system. Ding. System notification. You have accepted the task. Gregor Darnell's commission. Received 20,000 gold coins. If the task fails, the gold will automatically be deducted. What? Gregor's voice exploded in fury. 10% of all shop upgrades. When did I agree to cover all of them? His face turned so red that even the creases on his skin seemed to smooth out. And didn't we agree 10% net profit remuneration? Ethan gave a casual shrug, feigning innocence. I did try to warn you to review the recording carefully. You were the one who insisted you were the one who proceeded without double-check. As for the clause about net profit, well, I may have mentioned 5% and you didn't object. Gregor's glare could have melted steel, and Ethan wisely decided to change the subject. Lord Darnell, about property deed number 1, And the guild base I've selected. Could you finalize the paperwork for me? Humph. Handle it yourself. Go to the property office and guild hall. Gregor barked before dismissing Ethan with a wave of his hand. Captain Roland stepped forward, motioning for Ethan to follow. This way, please. And just like that, Ethan was escorted out of the town hall. Outside, Ethan chuckled as he reviewed the stamped contract in his system interface. Trying to play word games with me? Not a chance, Gregor. You're just a digital NPC, don't mess with a real-life hustler. Still, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. The NPCs in this timeline felt unnervingly lifelike compared to his previous run. He hurried to the property office to finalize the deed transfer, then visited the guild hall to claim the best-positioned guild base available, an advantage reserved for top-level players like him. After securing the base, Ethan checked his inventory. The system had deposited 20,485 gold coins. Smirking, he thought, borrowing a little shouldn't hurt, right? Ethan strolled to the guild upgrade desk and confidently submitted an application to upgrade his guild. Ding! Insufficient funds. Upgrade denied. Damn it! Ethan muttered under his breath. Apparently, Gregor's 20,000 gold was locked for property purchases only. Frustrated but undeterred, Ethan turned his attention to another opportunity. He approached an NPC administrator. Is it possible to apply for a guild war right now? The NPC bowed slightly. Honored leader of Renegade Alliance, although we are currently in a ceasefire period, your guild is the first in this region to reach level 2. As such, you are entitled to one free declaration of war, bypassing the ceasefire restrictions. Would you like to use this privilege now? Ethan's eyes lit up. Absolutely.
I'm glad.
If I just marched into Lila's starter zone for revenge, I'd have ended up flagged with a black level sin value. He grimaced at the thought of the endless grind to clear such a stain, which would delay his quest and give others a chance to claim the rewards. Still, there was no way Ethan would let his enemies off the hook for bullying Lila. No one messes with my girl, he muttered under his breath. Time to settle the score. Proceed with the war declaration, Ethan instructed. Understood. Please specify the target guild and your declaration message. You may also set a start time. Note: the free declaration grants a 12-hour conflict window. Extending the duration will require additional payment. Ethan smirked. 12 hours was more than enough. He filled out the form, submitted it, and sprinted to the teleportation hub. Since city regulations prohibited the use of magic or transformation skills within its borders, Ethan had to travel in his human form. Chapter 36. Rally the troops. Teleporting to Zone 1370 from Zone 1314 had cost Ethan 10 gold coins, essentially daylight robbery. The amount, equivalent to $18,000, made his heart ache. But for Lila it was worth every cent. Or so Ethan told himself as he tried to justify the expense. As the teleportation effect faded, Ethan immediately sent Lila a video call request. She picked up quickly, her expression serious but calm. He checked her location. She was already at the designated hiding spot. How's it going on your end? Ethan asked. I'm fine, Lila replied. But my classmates told me those guys are still camping on the main road outside the town. They're killing any players trying to leave to level up. It's disgusting. Good to hear you're safe. Stay put. I'm coming to get you, Ethan said firmly. The hiding spot wasn't far from the small town. Thanks to his stag form, which required no quest to unlock, Ethan had activated it back when he hit level 15. With a plus 200% movement speed boost, added to his base 107%, Ethan's stag form allowed him to blitz across the terrain at an incredible 214% speed. In just 10 minutes, he reached the location. This was their first in-game meeting since the reset. Seeing Lila's spirited outfit, identical to how she looked in his past life, hit Ethan with a wave of nostalgia. Switching back to human form, Ethan strode forward and pulled Lila into a fierce hug. It was the release of 5,000 years of yearning and suppressed emotion. During those endless years in the dream world, Lila had been his emotional anchor. Even at the bitter end, his final wish had been to hold her one last time. Ethan? Lila's voice trembled as she pushed lightly against his chest. What's gotten into you? Her startled expression reminded Ethan of a frightened doe. Embarrassed, he let go and laughed it off. Nothing important. It's all in the past now. Seeing his reddened eyes, Lila hesitated before stepping closer and gently hugging his arm. Whatever it is, I'll always be here for you. Ha! Come on. I'm supposed to be rescuing you. Why does it feel like you're the one comforting me? Ethan teased, brushing the moment aside. Is that so? Lila said with a playful smirk. She made a face at him, the same mischievous expression she'd worn as a child. Hey, who was the crybaby back then? Huh? Ethan muttered under his breath. But under Lila's glare, he quickly added, Never mind that, let's get moving. You up for some real action? What kind of action? Lila asked, intrigued. You'll see, Ethan said with a sly grin, sending her a party invite. Moments later, a system notification appeared in the skies above. System announcement. Guild War Declaration. Zone 1314's Renegade Alliance declares war on Zone 1370's Unity Hall. Kills will not increase in value. Duration, 12 hours. Declaration. Unity Hall will drown in blood. Quit your guild and you'll be spared. Stay, and none will survive. Declaration by guild leader, not a druid. The announcement echoed in every player's ears. Blood-red letters stretched across the skies, visible no matter where anyone was in the game. Player reactions in Zone 1370. Anonymous. Finally, someone's standing up for us. Get the popcorn ready. Anonymous. But how are they even getting here?
Anonymous. No idea.
Maybe they're just bluffing? Ethan smirked as he glanced at the sky. His bloodthirsty grin sent a chill down Lila's spine. How many do we have coming? Ethan asked in a private message to Skyblade. On the way to Zone 1370, Ethan had already contacted Skyblade, Slashblade, and Seraph Warrior, instructing them to rally the guild. Nearly the entire guild, Skyblade replied enthusiastically. We've got 963 members total, and aside from about 20 offline, everyone else is grouped into 3 major parties. The rest formed smaller teams to squeeze in. Good. Keep track of everyone who participates. After this, each member gets 10 contribution points. Anyone who dies in battle will receive an additional 5 silver coins as compensation. Ethan instructed. 10 contribution points? Isn't that a bit much? Skyblade asked hesitantly. It's worth it, Ethan replied. This is our first battle, we need to make a statement. Ethan's mind burned with a dual purpose. Defending Lila and crushing his enemies, Zachary and Ivy. This first clash wasn't just about pride, it was about erasing Unity Hall before they could even grow roots in the starter zone. Skyblade relayed Ethan's orders to the Renegade Alliance, word for word. The guild's chat system was in chaos, excitement mingling with confusion. Anonymous. Guild leader is a legend. Bloodbath Unity Hall. Anonymous. But, how are we supposed to cross zones? Anonymous. Yeah, what's the plan? Quiet, Skyblade barked. Boss has it all figured out. Just wait for his signal. Ethan pulled out a scroll from his inventory, a special reward he'd received after initiating the guild war. Since this was the first guild war in the entire game, the system had granted him a one-time use item, the guild-wide summoning scroll. Initially, Ethan had planned to charge in solo, but the scroll came with a time limit. If unused within 12 hours, it would vanish. This wasn't something he could waste. Guild-wide summoning scrolls were almost mythical in the later stages of the game, capable of turning the tide of entire wars. And this one was even more unique, allowing the summoning of his entire guild to his location. When Ethan had first seen it, he'd considered skipping the guild war altogether and using it to teleport everyone to the main city instead. Unfortunately, the scroll's usage was restricted to Zone 1370, forcing him to revise his plan. Meanwhile, in Unity Hall's camp, chaos reigned. When the war declaration popped up, panic spread like wildfire. Unity Hall's leaders, Overlord and Nightfall, scrambled to organize their members. With over 700 players, they were a decent mid-tier guild. However, their membership fees, a steep 5 silver coins, meant most joined purely for the experience bonuses, not loyalty. Like most guilds at this stage, Unity Hall lacked cohesion. The high cost of forming a guild meant they'd prioritized financial stability over trust or unity. Only players with deeper pockets could afford to join, ensuring a stronger roster but weaker bonds. 30 minutes later, Zone 1370 was eerily quiet. The initial tension among Unity Hall members gave way to skepticism. Anonymous. They're just bluffing. Nothing's happening. Anonymous. Exactly. I'm heading out to grind levels. Another 30 minutes passed, and even Overlord and Nightfall began to relax. Eventually, they disbanded the raid groups, convinced the Renegade Alliance wasn't coming. "Boss, our scouts in the town report that Unity Hall has disbanded their groups. Most of their members are heading out," Slashblade informed Ethan. "Good," Ethan replied. "Tell the scouts to stay vigilant and be ready to act." Turning to Seraph Warrior, Ethan asked, "Are the rogues in position at the resurrection points?" Seraph Warrior checked his messages. "All set. In the level 1 to 7 zones, as per your coordinates. At least 10 rogues stationed at each location." "Perfect. Skyblade, rally the main force with me. Slashblade, give the signal for the scouts in the town to move." Shifting into stag form, Ethan called out, "Lila, hop on." The stag form allowed him to carry one passenger. Lila hesitated for a moment before nodding and climbing onto his back. As Ethan sprinted forward, Lila clung to him, still in shock. She couldn't fathom how Ethan had summoned so many players from outside their zone. Gazing down at the glowing stag beneath her, she couldn't help but smile, a rare, soft expression of happiness lighting up her face. Back in the town, the spectators who'd gathered to watch the chaos began to disperse, losing interest. Outside the walls, on the only road leading to the leveling area, Nightfall and over 100 red-named players continued ambushing anyone trying to leave. Trapped players inside the town fumed, grinding their teeth in frustration. On the walls, a group of bored onlookers scanned the horizon. Suddenly, one of them shouted, "Hey, what's that?" Chapter 37. Strategic Clash. As the shout echoed through the streets, a lone figure caught everyone's attention. A female elf, specializing as an archer, rode swiftly down the road on the back of a massive stag. Her name glowed a sinister dark red above her head, marking her as a known killer. Her speed was impressive, and within moments, she had entered the semicircular formation of over 100 members led by Nightfall. She stopped abruptly about 100 meters away, her piercing gaze scanning her enemies. Most of Nightfall's group bore red names themselves, a clear indicator of their own bloody deeds. However, from Ethan's perspective, they were nothing but walking treasures. Their gear, especially Nightfall's, gleamed with an otherworldly brilliance. Her weapon and robes radiated a white, shimmering aura that spoke of high-tier craftsmanship. "Well, if it isn't the little runaway who made me chase her halfway across the map," Nightfall sneered, her voice dripping with mockery as she turned to Lila. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Decided running wasn't worth it and came back to surrender?" Lila didn't bother responding. Instead, she gave Nightfall a dismissive glance, her lips curling in slight disdain. Nightfall raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Riding a stag, are we? Seems like you've had a bit of luck lately. How about this? I'll let you live if you hand over that pretty mount of yours." "Deal?" Ethan rolled his eyes. "She really thinks I'm a mount," he muttered under his breath. "Not that she hasn't ridden me before. Wait." He shook off the intrusive thought and quickly glanced at Lila, relieved to see she hadn't noticed. "Move," Ethan ordered in the guild chat. A sudden commotion erupted from the direction of the nearby town. In an orderly and disciplined fashion, 53 shield tanks marched out, their formation tight and precise. Those with tower shields planted them firmly into the ground, creating a defensive wall. Others with smaller round shields raised them overhead, forming a protective canopy for their comrades. The shield wall was positioned perfectly at the town's only gate, with the soldiers' boots safely within the neutral zone and their shields extending just beyond its boundaries. Ethan smirked at their flawless execution. "Not bad. All I gave them was the coordinates, and they nailed it." Nightfall noticed the movement and raised a curious eyebrow but quickly dismissed it with a sneer. "Impressive. You've got something up your sleeve. But what can these walking slabs of beef really do? Bludgeon us with their shields?" She laughed mockingly. "Boss lady, something feels off," murmured a sniper standing beside her, his tone cautious. "What's off? That pitiful bunch of tin cans? Give me a break." Nightfall snapped, glaring at him. The sniper hesitated but wisely kept quiet, not wanting to provoke her further. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the sound of thunderous footsteps approaching from the horizon. The players on the walls turned their heads, their eyes widening as a massive force came into view. A group of over 200 players, a mix of all classes, sprinted toward Lila's position with unwavering determination. Before the onlookers could process what was happening, the reinforcements stopped behind Lila in a unified line. In the midst of the chaos, Lila calmly dismounted, stowing away her stag. The crowd failed to notice Ethan vanishing into stealth mode in that brief moment. The sniper's unease grew, his eyes locking onto the insignias on the newcomers' chests. The words Renegade Alliance burned into his mind. Now he understood the nagging feeling from earlier. When the shield tanks had first appeared, their swift and efficient formation was suspicious. But now, with the arrival of the Alliance reinforcements, it all made sense. Close ranks. Protect Boss Lady. Send word to the guild leader, we need backup now. The Renegade Alliance is here, the sniper ordered, his voice firm despite the growing tension. Despite being outnumbered, Nightfall's team showed little fear. Each of the 100-plus players was a guild elite, all at level 7, equipped with at least 1 piece of silver gear and 3 pieces of bronze. By contrast, the Renegade Alliance's reinforcements were a mixed bag, their levels ranging from 4 to 5. Many of them wore patched-up gear, with several still clad in the basic novice attire. Under the sniper's orders, Nightfall's team began tightening their formation, retracting the wide semicircle they had formed earlier to trap players attempting to leave the town. Meanwhile, Lila raised a silver-tipped arrow, knocking it against her gleaming bowstring. Her target? Nightfall herself. Nightfall's confident smirk faltered for a moment before she regained her composure. Glancing at the 100-meter gap between them, she scoffed. Too far. She's out of range, Nightfall muttered, letting her guard down again. But Lila just smiled sweetly. With deliberate precision, she raised her bow higher and loosed the arrow. On the town walls, a few onlookers leaned in, confused. What's she doing? One player asked. Looks like a long shot, another replied hesitantly. Before they could finish speculating, a loud explosion echoed across the battlefield as the arrow burst into a brilliant, fiery detonation at its peak. Attack! From the left flank, a shield tank charged forward, using nearby animals as targets to continuously activate his charge skill and build momentum. From the right, a knight gripped a massive greatsword in reverse, sprinting full tilt toward Nightfall's forces. Each of them was followed by over 100 warriors and knights, their armor gleaming as they advanced with frightening coordination. Though most of these reinforcements were below level 6, their equipment was leagues ahead of the ragged attire worn by the irregulars pushing forward from the center. Leading the charge were Skyblade and Seraph Warrior, both at level 10. Their intimidating presence was unmistakable. Behind Seraph Warrior's group of knights, 2 priests trailed closely, one of them a burly man, Slashblade, while the other was an unfamiliar yet striking woman. Similarly, 3 priests supported Skyblade's group of warriors, a man and 2 women Ethan didn't recognize. These 5 priests were the guild's only players capable of casting beginner healing spells. Meanwhile, Lila's force of over 200 pressed forward as well, albeit without a full-on charge. Nightfall's team, under the sniper's calm yet urgent command, adjusted their formation further, shielding Nightfall in the center. As the pressure from the frontal assault increased, they began retreating slowly toward the town, careful not to cross the 10-meter boundary that would trigger the town's automated guards to attack them. The sniper carefully calculated the distance of the advancing flanks. All ranged units, prepare to fire. Target the flanks as soon as they're in range. Focus fire on those melee fighters. Blast them down. On the walls, the spectators were nearly vibrating with excitement, craning their necks to take in every detail of the impending clash. It's about to go down, someone shouted. Look, the ranged units from Unity Hall are setting up, another exclaimed. Think those warriors and knights will even make it to the front lines? Hard to say. Unity Hall's gear is way better, but the Renegade Alliance has numbers. And then there's Lila's militia pushing from the center. It's going to be a bloodbath. The chatter was abruptly interrupted by a sharp command. Fire! The startled spectators flinched as a wave of spells, arrows, and cannon blasts erupted from their midst. Dozens of players, all bearing the insignia of the Renegade Alliance, had secretly positioned themselves among the wall's defenders. Now they unleashed a devastating barrage of attacks. Their targets? The heart of Nightfall's formation. At this distance, it shouldn't have been possible to land a single hit. Even the players casting spells doubted their attacks would connect, expecting their projectiles to fizzle harmlessly into the air. But the strikes landed flawlessly, blasting into Nightfall's tightly packed team with devastating precision. Chapter 38. Devastation. The group of players watched as their attacks landed on the enemy. A realization dawned on them, Elevated positions significantly boosted their range. Damn! One of them muttered, watching their leader coordinate the chaos below. The guildmaster's always thinking ahead. That's why he's number one on the leaderboard. The group's confidence in Ethan swelled. Energized, they attacked with reckless abandon, flinging skills and projectiles as if they were free. Below, their enemies scrambled. Despite being well-geared, the opposing side couldn't withstand the focused assault from over 50 ranged classes. Within seconds, 10 players were down, their fallen bodies scattering loot across the battlefield. A few nearby teammates rushed forward to claim the spoils, but the items vanished into thin air. Shit! They've got a rogue clearing the battlefield, someone shouted from Nightfall's squad. The sniper cursed under his breath. Priests who can cast holy light, scatter illumination spells now. We'll flush out that rogue. There's no one left, a panicked player stammered. The priests are all dead. Except for her. He gestured toward Nightfall. Damn! The sniper thought bitterly. They were entirely at the mercy of the enemy now. His only hope was that the guildmaster would arrive soon. Surveying the chaos, the sniper barked orders. Shift formation. Head further from the town walls. Waiting for reinforcements was pointless. Without priests, there was no way to sustain the fight. Their only option was to leverage their higher levels and gear to break through and regroup. Nightfall, caught in the middle of the chaos, hesitated. As the group pivoted toward Lila's position, the rising tension was palpable. Clutching her longbow, Lila's hands trembled slightly. She was nervous, anyone would be. But she had a job to do, one Ethan had entrusted to her. Gauge the enemy's range and lead the counteroffensive. As the only level 8 sniper in their group, she was the only one with the Hawk's Eye ability. Hawk's Eye was a passive skill exclusive to snipers and marksmen, capable of gauging target distance and boosting skill accuracy. At higher levels, it even increased range. Narrowing her eyes, Lila gauged the distance. 90 meters, 80, 75. Now, all snipers and marksmen, fire upward at a 35-degree angle. Use normal attacks, suppressive fire. Keep going, no breaks, she commanded. Mages and warlocks, 40-degree angle. Use low-damage instant cast spells and follow up with AoEs once they're in range. Target their front line. Her voice trembled slightly, whether from fear or excitement. Even she wasn't sure. As Lila's orders spread through the group, the enemy squad closed to 70 meters, their tight formation faltering under the rain of arrows and spells. At first, the attacks only did minor damage, with single-digit numbers floating above the enemy's heads. Yet the relentless hail of projectiles forced the advancing players to pause, stumbling as stray hits threw off their rhythm. The enemy sniper noticed the weakened impact and shouted, "They're using weak attacks. Push through. Their damage is negligible." Focused entirely on breaking through, the enemy squad didn't notice the warriors and paladins closing in from both flanks. Pressing forward, they ignored the volleys of arrows, even as they struggled to maintain formation. Players hit less often surged ahead, while those struck repeatedly lagged behind. Their once cohesive formation stretched, round and tight at first, into a fragile, elongated oval. Another 10 meters forward, and then it hit. A barrage of instant cast spells rained down. Fireballs, ice spikes, shadow bolts, and even holy smite spells exploded among them. Though still low in damage, the impact was devastating. Ice spikes left a layer of frost on anyone hit, slowing their movement by 20%. Dispel the slow effects, the enemy sniper shouted to Nightfall. Focus on clearing the path. Caught off guard, Nightfall glared at him, irritation flashing across her face. You dare yell at me? Just wait till the guildmaster hears about this. The sniper had no idea that his efforts to protect Nightfall were earning him nothing but her resentment. He quickly scanned the surroundings. The enemy flanking them was still 90 yards away, while the ragtag group ahead was less than 60 yards. If they reached the group before being surrounded, they could punch through with ease. With those low-level, poorly geared players, it'll take less than 5 seconds to carve a path out, he thought confidently. At the front of their formation, several teammates had already lost a sixth of their health but didn't care. They kept charging, heads down, rage simmering beneath the surface. Initially, they had tried mimicking the enemy's volley technique, launching a few attacks of their own. But their accuracy was terrible. Even when 2 or 3 skills found their way toward the enemy, the group scattered like startled birds, avoiding all damage. Many of them were big names in the real world, wealthy professionals or seasoned players. Their high-end gear and ability to pay the 5 silver membership fee for the guild made that clear. Truth be told, they hadn't wanted to waste time slaughtering low-level players today, but promises of lucrative rewards had convinced them to come. Now, being pinned down and hammered mercilessly, their pride was wounded. All they wanted was to close the gap and smash their opponents to pieces. 55 yards. 50. 40. The first few ranged players in the formation raised their staves, preparing to cast as soon as they were in range. But before they could unleash their spells, the enemy beat them to it. Boom! A coordinated barrage of area of effect attacks descended upon them. Over 100 players unleashed their skills simultaneously, drowning the front line in explosions and elemental chaos. Mages hurled explosive fireballs and blizzards. Warlocks rained down meteor showers. Sharpshooters fired cannon bombs. Archers let loose a devastating arrow storm. From a distance, the overlapping magic created a dazzling sphere of light, vibrant and chaotic. But for the 20 players caught in the onslaught, there was no time to admire the spectacle. Agonizing pain racked their bodies as the spells hit. Screams echoed as they tried to turn back, only to find themselves pinned to the ground by the sheer impact of the magic. Hundreds of spells continued to rain down, many dealing persistent damage. Each tick of forced 1-point health loss piled up rapidly. In less than 5 seconds, the 20 players were obliterated, their bodies dissolving into glowing loot scattered across the battlefield. Keep the AoE pressure up. Blanket the gear with spells. No one stops until I say so. Moonbeam barked through gritted teeth, firing another arrow storm. The sight of top-tier equipment littering the ground made everyone drool with greed. Go grab the loot, Nightfall shouted. Don't, the sniper began, but his warning came too late. A dozen players charged into the glowing sphere of magic, only to suffer the same fate as those before them. Their health bars plummeted, and within seconds, they joined the pile of corpses. Nightfall, preparing to snap at the sniper for questioning her command, froze mid-thought as she watched the carnage unfold. What do we do now? She stammered, momentarily stunned. The sniper's attention snapped to the warriors and paladins closing in from both sides. The delay had cost them dearly. The enemy was now only 30 yards away. It's over, he thought grimly. Trying to circle around the magical killing field was no longer an option. They simply didn't have the time. And just as he feared, their doom was imminent. Boom! 2 unstoppable waves of enemies collided with their formation, smashing into them with devastating force. Chapter 39. Tactical Genius. As the knights and warriors encircled their targets, Ethan's voice rang out on the guild's command channel. Focus fire. Kill the ones without red names first. It was the first time anyone in the guild had ever heard him speak. A brief silence followed before comprehension hit. He wasn't leaving them with even a single scrap. Through the lingering haze of magical light, they could see the loot scattered across the ground. All of it was their spoils of war, treasures they'd soon be able to exchange for guild contribution points. Like predators in a frenzy, the guild members charged at the players without red names, slashing and stabbing with ruthless precision. Their prey barely had time to react before falling, dismembered under the flurry of blades. Within mere moments, over 20 players lay dead, their bodies fading into flashes of white light. The sniper who had been coordinating their enemy's counterattack was now paralyzed with fear. Who is commanding this group? He thought. Could it be that girl? The one with the sharp eyes and deadly aim? But he quickly dismissed the idea. She's nervous herself, clearly struggling to stay composed. There's no way she's orchestrating this chaos. His mind reeled as he recalled the sequence of events. First, the shield tanks had sealed off the town gates, locking his team in. Then, their flanking ambush had been countered, and their healers systematically assassinated. Even now, rogue players scoured the battlefield, ensuring no survivors could escape with the loot. Their movements were coordinated, methodical, and ruthless. Each step of their strategy was a calculated blow, leaving him scrambling for answers. The sniper clenched his fists. The shield tanks at the gates. They weren't even moving. What were they planning? 3 shot! A teammate shouted. The guild leaders sending reinforcements. Over 200 players are on their way. 3 shot was the nickname of the sniper, taken from his in-game name. Only 3 shots. He snapped out of his thoughts, his lips curling in frustration. 200? We won't last another minute, he barked back. Tell him to bring body bags instead. The guild leader said most of our players wouldn't come back after waiting over an hour earlier. They think the enemy's bluffing. Damn it! Three-Shot cursed, his frustration boiling over. But there was no time for regret. Just then, two figures broke through the defensive line. Skyblade and Seraph Warrior. A chill ran down Three-Shot's spine. He was a long-range fighter, and now two melee specialists were closing in fast. With no room to maneuver, he was a sitting duck. Seraph Warrior struck first, unleashing a barrage of judgment and shock skills that left Three-Shot staggered and retreating. Before he could recover, Skyblade charged forward, triggering a stun effect and following up with a powerful shield bash. Three-Shot hit the ground hard, dazed and helpless. Seraph Warrior wasted no time, raising his greatsword high and bringing it down in a devastating arc. Pinned and unable to dodge, Three-Shot could only watch as the blade descended. A flash of cold steel, and his head was severed cleanly from his shoulders. The system notification rang out. Critical hit. Weak point assassination triggered. Target eliminated. Even with half his health remaining, the critical hit left no chance for survival. This rare system feature, a weak point fatality, was nearly impossible to execute, but the duo's flawless coordination made it happen. Achievement unlocked. Decapitation. Skyblade and Seraph Warrior exchanged brief nods before moving on to their next targets. With Three-Shot eliminated, the enemy forces descended into chaos. In under a minute, their 200-strong force had been reduced to fewer than 80 players, who were swiftly wiped out by Ethan's 300-man army. The battlefield was strewn with loot, yet no one dared pick up a single item. It was Ethan's decree. All gear would be added to the guild vault for redistribution through contribution points. No exceptions. At first, not everyone was eager to follow Ethan's orders. But after this battle, their doubts had been erased. Under normal circumstances, going up against an enemy armed with silver and bronze-tiered gear would have been a death sentence. Simply surviving would have been a miracle, let alone wiping out the entire opposing force. Yet, somehow, they had not only survived but crushed their foes with minimal casualties. It was all thanks to Ethan's meticulous strategy. As Ethan stepped out of stealth and joined the crowd, Lila led the group of ranged fighters over. Every single person was buzzing with excitement, their adrenaline still coursing from the victory. The moment they saw Ethan, they greeted him with a unified cheer. "Boss!" Skyblade, ever the joker, grinned and called out to Lila, "Hey there, First Lady of the Guild." Lila blushed deeply but didn't respond, her eyes darting anywhere but at Skyblade. Ethan smirked and shot Skyblade an approving look. Skyblade tilted his head in return, grinning smugly as if to say, "I've got your back, boss." Skyblade, Ethan ordered, organize the battlefield. Have some of the members carry the loot back to town. It all goes into the guild vault. He turned to the other direction. Slashblade, tally the casualties. Give each fallen player 5 silver coins as compensation. Then he addressed Seraph Warrior and Lila. "You two, come with me to clean up the stragglers. Their elite forces are down. What's left won't be a threat." Ethan rattled off commands with precision, each one sending the group into motion. Skyblade, however, couldn't resist. "Why not let First Lady handle the loot sorting? I want to get out there and crush some enemies." He flashed a toothy grin at Lila, who ignored him completely. Ethan raised an eyebrow, his tone laced with amusement. "Sure, go ahead. If you can convince Seraph Warrior to trade position with you." Seraph Warrior didn't miss a beat, interjecting smoothly, "Skyblade, quit whining and get to work. Unless, of course, you want Slashblade's sister paying you a visit tomorrow." Skyblade's bravado faltered, and he straightened up. "Ugh, not this again. Can't you come up with a better threat? And for the record, it's Slashblade's sister, not yours. Who says she'll even listen to you?" Ignoring him entirely, Seraph Warrior turned and walked away. Just then, Slashblade appeared, clapping Skyblade on the shoulder. "By the way, my sister says she's looking forward to seeing you." Skyblade groaned, muttering under his breath as he turned and left to count the casualties, leaving Skyblade spluttering behind him. The banter among Ethan's team was lighthearted, but over at Unity Hall's camp, the atmosphere was grim. "Guild leader, we've been wiped out. Help us. There's a group of rogues camping the graveyard. We can't even revive. Damn it, I've been killed twice now. I'm down to level 5. Yeah, Why does every death drop a full level? And why do we keep reviving at the graveyard without a choice? Let's quit the guild. The rogues keep shouting they'll let us go if we leave. The Unity Hall guild chat was in utter chaos. Notifications of members quitting flooded the system. Zachary, known in the game as Overlord, guild leader of Unity Hall. He sat in stunned silence, helpless as over 100 players, everyone wiped out by Ethan's team, left the guild in quick succession. Chapter 40. The Fall of Unity Hall. Unity Hall was in chaos. Over 100 elite members had been wiped out and forced to quit the guild. Overlord led a group of over 200 toward the outskirts of the small town, but cracks were already forming within his ranks. Members were silently leaving the group one by one, and his attempts to stabilize morale fell flat. Who could blame them? A team of over 100 top players, many around level 7 or 8, had been utterly crushed. Some had even been ambushed and killed at the graveyard, losing at least 3 levels each. For the second-string members left in the group, hope was a luxury they couldn't afford. With just over 200 players, how could they possibly win this fight? Most decided to wait and see, or even quit the guild entirely to protect their gear and experience. A few of them even found reasons to celebrate. With the elites out of the picture, players like them might suddenly find themselves at the top of Zone 1370's food chain. As the group approached the outskirts of town, their numbers shrank instead of growing. By the time they reached the town gates, only 183 players remained. Then Overlord caught sight of the enemy. A wall of shield tanks from the Renegade Alliance, standing guard at the town's entrance. Unity Hall's guild chat exploded with activity. Scattered players leveling up in the wilderness were under attack from Renegade Alliance. Every ambusher from Renegade Alliance shouted the same thing before striking. Quit Unity Hall, and we won't kill you. Not that they ever gave their victims a chance to leave the guild. They attacked on sight. Once a player was killed, their ghost was automatically resurrected at the nearby graveyard. But there, Rouges would be waiting in ambush, delivering another swift death. Normally, players in ghost form could talk to the Angel of Resurrection or return to their corpse to revive. But this time, neither option worked. Ethan knew exactly why. In a guild war, the system altered the mechanics. Players without a guild base would revive at the nearest respawn point. Meanwhile, guilds with bases saw their players resurrected directly at their headquarters. In this case, Unity Hall had no base in Zone 1370. Their respawns were stuck in the nearby graveyard. Renegade Alliance's strategic advantage was obvious, and Ethan couldn't help but smirk at his handiwork. According to Slashblade's tally, Renegade Alliance had suffered 37 casualties. Their opponent's equipment was solid. If not for Ethan's careful planning, this battle might have turned out very differently. Even so, Renegade Alliance had taken some losses, 37 players out of over 300 during the final push. Guild war deaths came with heavy penalties, losing a level and, for non-red-named players, 1 piece of equipment. Unity Hall had suffered catastrophic losses. In contrast, Renegade Alliance was thriving, using battles to fuel its growth. When Overlord's group was just a few hundred meters from the town, they were forced to change direction. They split up to respond to distress calls from members in nearby leveling areas. But it was a futile effort. By the time they arrived, Renegade Alliance had already vanished. This success was largely thanks to Ethan. Using his experience from a past life and an uncanny understanding of the map, he tracked Overlord's group and predicted their movements with pinpoint accuracy. Normally, rogue skills like stealth significantly reduced movement speed before being upgraded. For most players, that meant stealth wasn't a viable option for reconnaissance. But Ethan, with his refined techniques and cheat-like abilities, could maintain 83.5% of his speed while staying hidden, just enough to tail the enemy. One fight after another, and Unity Hall's players were ready to call it quits. They began teleporting back to town en masse. Some tried logging out, hoping to escape the relentless ambushes. But the system informed them that logging out was disabled during guild wars. They'd have to wait until the game entered its sleep phase at 8 a.m. Some Unity Hall players were fortunate. Their free teleport stones weren't on cooldown, allowing them to return safely to the town's sanctuary. Others weren't so lucky. Without teleport stones, they could only run toward the town on foot. Even members of Overlord's own team began deserting him. Some used their teleport stones, while others fled in the direction of the town. In the end, only his most loyal supporters stayed. The group had dwindled to fewer than 50. "Boss, we should retreat too," one of Overlord's personal bodyguards suggested. Retreat? Where exactly do you think we're going to run? Those shield tanks at the gate aren't just decorations, Overlord snapped. His eyes glinted coldly. And what about that not a druid? Any updates? We looked into it, but nothing came up. Aeon Corporation's security protocols are impenetrable, the bodyguard admitted. Impenetrable? What else? Overlord pressed. Well, we couldn't even locate their headquarters. All we know is that their regional offices are scattered across different countries, and those are just manufacturing facilities for VR headsets and capsules. Impressive? Overlord muttered, a mix of frustration and admiration in his voice. Keep digging. Report to me the moment you find something. At the gates of the town, a large crowd of Unity Hall players had gathered. They kept their distance, standing about 70 meters from the entrance. Fear was written across their faces. Earlier, they had watched a group of guildmates attempt to break through the shield wall that Renegade Alliance had formed at the gate. Despite the combined force of dozens of players, the shield wall barely trembled. Moments later, a barrage of magic, arrows, and cannon fire from the town walls obliterated them. As the dust settled, a gap opened in the shield wall, and a single shield tank sauntered out. After casually looting the corpses, he turned toward the Unity Hall players and mockingly gestured for them to come closer. Then, without a word, he retreated behind the shields, and the wall closed again. In the crowd, 3-Shot watched the scene unfold. He was now a level. If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions, just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.